Here's how WEBCON makes citizen-assisted development scale and succeed. Citizen development often fails, or more to the point, abdicating development to users often fails. You might ask why, because software developers of low-code platforms do what they can to make developing applications easy. The issue is, it's not just about developing those applications. Development is really only about 10% of the work it takes to deliver something. There's design, auditing, security, monitoring, maintenance, usability, training, and change management. And citizen developers usually ignore that stuff, and it makes their work incredibly fragile, suitable for personal use, but not much else. The thing is, low code is not the problem. Low code in the hands of professionals can produce amazingly great results if the professionals in question have a sense of what users actually want. More often than not, they don't. It's a communication challenge in a big way. Why WEBCON is such a strong proponent of something called citizen-assisted development. It's not the abdication of building applications to users, it's collaboration between users and professionals. We've even built a tool for it called Designer Desk, and we'd love for you to see it in action. Imagine a citizen developer, really a citizen analyst, deciding on an application they'd like to build. They'll build a form and decide what data they need at the exact same time by putting the right fields in the right place, making sure they've got the right names and such. What we are looking at is an example of what the form should be when the developer actually builds it. And if there is any special behavior we need, we make notes about it. We'd like this one to be date and time, for example. Any defaults, any custom behavior, any instructions to users, any of that. Make sure we annotate it thoroughly. We don't have to obsess over the details, just provide notes. Let's also build a workflow. We actually could start with the workflow and do the form later, but we found that users tend to think of forms first. That's perfectly fine. These steps in the process represent states or statuses. So you indicate where the form is going from place to place. So you always know where the form is going to be. You annotate what each step means, and you annotate what happens as you move from step to step. Now, once we know what the form looks like and the data it's going to have, and we know the steps it's going to go through, we can try the whole thing out. It's probably for the best. We want to check these instructions. We want to check these steps. Let's put some data in here and click the appropriate buttons to move it from step to step and make sure that the transitions are all correct. In production, this would move from user to user, but when we're testing out an example, all steps lead back to the same person to make it easy to test. Now let's take a look at the data view, the report. I'd like to add a few fields to this. It already has status information, but I want some form data in here too. And that looks great. But trying it out made me realize it's not enough. There are a few extra steps in the workflow that must take place. So I'll put them in here and annotate them thoroughly so that when someone goes to build the real thing, they'll know what it is they're supposed to do. Now, I would imagine as you see me doing this, one of the questions that you're probably asking yourself is, how is this different from citizen development? It starts with what we're not doing. We are not asking the citizen analyst to configure everything. We're sure they know what they want, but it's not their field of expertise to know how to produce it. That's okay. By providing examples and annotations, someone in IT, a third-party developer, a consultant, they can take those notes, combine it with their expertise, and produce the desired result the way they uniquely know how to do. It's a conversation between the citizen that knows the what and the professional that knows the how. Instead of settings and scripts and rules and formulas, Designer Desk focuses on examples and notes. This is even true of data. Let's add a drop-down choice box to this form and explain where it's going to get its data. We don't need to teach a citizen analyst how to get data from another place. We're just asking them to say, yes, you're going to get it from this other place. You'd figure out the details. And here's an example of what I want you to query. When it comes to things like conditional formatting, well, checkboxes can take care of whether something should be visible or read-only or required at each step of the process. This approach shapes the requests that users make, makes them actionable by developers, and it makes the expectations on everybody's part crystal clear. In addition to this being a living example, including things like desired security permissions and such, we can, with a single click, produce documentation that can illustrate exactly how this application is meant to behave and allow people to browse through it. So if they didn't participate in an interactive design session, they can still see what the results of it were and decide whether or not it's suitable. Everything is in here. And it doesn't end there. With one more click, this becomes a project that can be completed by professionals using WEBCON BPS. Here's that exact same application, now inside a professional design environment. It's still low code. We're going to spend a lot of time configuring it and looking at the notes that were given to us and making the appropriate configuration choices to match. A lot of this will affect who gets notified, who gets assigned things. These are all things that were provided to us in notes. This affects form fields, this affects data dictionary definitions and defaults, and everything else. We can add formulas that are low code and easy. We can configure the visual appearance of some things. We can make some changes to those final reports. And we can add specific instructions that refer to the security parameters people were asking for in notes. We can make those refer to actual security groups and user identities. And there's more. Instead of only being able to do 10%, we can cover the vast majority of an application's delivery needs, especially change management, something WEBCON excels at, and something that matters a lot when dealing with user requests. In this example, we've just submitted a form to this user's manager, and the manager is going to reject it. And if you're curious as to what should happen if she clicks the reject button, it'll follow the pattern here, which is to move it along the reject path to the rejected state. But what if users would prefer a second chance? Can we change this? Yes, and we can change it even while the application is in use. We'll move the reject path so that it goes right back to preparing request and assign it to the author and make sure they get a notification for it. Now, when we do that, we need to also provide a path for the author to give up. And so we'll call this withdraw, and we'll change rejected to cancel. Let's see it in action. We're not going to reload this form. We're not going to recall it. We're not going to grandfather it. The change took effect in real time. This went back to the author, and it's once again the preparing request step. This is technology WEBCON calls instant change, and it's all about enabling continuous improvement to applications. When you combine that with clear communication, you get citizen-assisted development, and that is the WEBCON way. If you'd like to know more, please visit us at www.webcon.com. And thanks for watching.